I'll talk about Journey TV a little bit first. So we launched our in-car screens. These are the tablets that you find in the back of Uber rides back in early 2023. So we branded it as Journey TV. We piloted it in a few markets. And ultimately, really as the leader in global rideshare, we were starting with the consumers. How could we elevate the rider experience? And so we started with these in-car screens. We saw a great reception from our consumers, and we saw a lot of demand and interest from the marketplace from an advertiser perspective. And so we've really scaled pretty rapidly the last 12 to 18 months. Heading into 2025, we've gone from a handful of markets to we'll be in over 100 DMAs by next year.
Wow, that's fascinating. So that means not only is there an opportunity for marketers to put an ad in your app, so when people are booking a ride, but when they're in the car, now they'll see a rider will see a screen in these cars where you have Journey TV installed.
Correct. So it really was the natural evolution of our mobility ad offering. And so the ability to reach a user on their phone within the app as they're ordering a ride, but now having an additional touch point. And really it's the largest screen as part of the rider journey. It's a great place for brands who are really trying to focus on upper funnel branding initiatives. It's the largest screen directly in front of the user, and it's a great surface for distributing, your traditional 15 and 30-second spots.
And what does it mean for attention, consumer attention?
Yeah, I think what we're really excited about it is you talk about the evolution of the in-car experience. So I'm dating myself a bit, but if you think back 15 years ago, if you are looking to get directions, there was no really GPS. You were probably printing them on MapQuest. If you were looking to play music, you might still be using like a CD deck. And so I think we take for granted how much these cars have evolved. A quote from a recent a CEO from one of the large automobile manufacturers talked about is they're as much of a software company today as a hardware company. And so I think that evolution is going to continue. We're able to play your Spotify playlist. You're able to use GPS. You get real-time traffic highlights. And I think what we're going to see is we're at a tipping point of that evolution now starting to impact in terms of entertainment, right? So there's, there's screens in the back of cars. There's now screens in the front of your console. They're talking about screens on the side of consoles. You have autonomous driving that's on the horizon. And so what this does is kind of the combination of people are spending a lot of times in their cars. Rideshare is a habit that is really growing exponentially globally in people's day-to-day lives. And so that presents a real opportunity when you talk about that behavior along with the advances in technology is to really create something that feels like an extension of the office. It feels like an extension of the living room and now becomes a place where you can really drive not just utility, but also entertainment.
And so do you have programming on these screens?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So when we launched the program, it was very utility based. Everything is personalized because we can utilize our own first party data. We have logged in information. So for instance, if I got into an Uber today, it would say, hey, Patrick, welcome to your Uber ride. When we initially piloted the program, it was really about driver information, where are you going, a real-time map, sort of estimated time of arrival. Those types of features the consumer really likes. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel comfortable. We're keeping those. And our next iteration, we just launched a new OS this month. We're for the first time starting to bring in third-party content. And so we're starting with some providers that are very endemic in the travel space. Ultimately, we're going to start to bring in lifestyle, sports, other content verticals. And I think what's going to make us really unique, I go back to that first-party data. We know based on behavior of what you're doing on the platform, things you're ordering on Uber Eats, places that you're going historically, or places you're going in real time. And we utilize that information now to bring contextual relevance to our advertising. For a future state is we want to use that information to bring relevance to the content and the features that we're serving you, right? And so ultimately, our vision is using that data, we can bring a true bespoke experience to each individual ride. So we all leave today from Beet. You might be going to the airport. Maybe I'm going to a sporting event. My whole experience, you and I's experience could be totally different, but it will be very specific based on the intent that we're showing with those signals.
Yeah, I've always thought that you had a very powerful platform in the sense that you knew the destination where people were going. So if I'm going, to the mall, there's an opportunity for the retailers in that mall maybe to hit me with an offer, a discount, or some kind of promotion. Maybe you could talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is that we see so much potential within the in-car experience, and I think we are uniquely equipped. One, because again we're the leader, we have mass scale, we essentially own the category, but more importantly is we have the data to really inform and bring relevance to each individual ride. And so by doing that, you're going to bring value to the consumer, and you're going to bring value to advertisers. And so exactly as you mentioned, we have personas based on historical behavior exhibited on our platform, and we can use that to target ads that are really relevant to you. Additionally, as I mentioned, is I think what we're excited to do is to bring content into the fray that's based on those same types of signals. And I think by combining those two, you ultimately are creating an experience that is elevated and has never been seen before. And really, that's when we talk about attention and sort of the next frontier of attention. This is really white space, right? Again, people are spending a lot of time in their automobile. And if you can combine that sort of behavior with the type of value that we're bringing, you're going to see engagement and attention and those metrics increase. And we've commissioned a lot of studies ourselves. We've worked with other holdco companies, and to quote one of the stats is 95% of people not only are open to advertising, but they welcome it if it's done in a very thoughtful way.
So, well, this has been really informative. Looking ahead, is there anything that you're particularly excited about, or perhaps worried about? What do you see? What do you expect to see happen in this space, and with Journey TV and with Uber in general as an advertising medium?
Yeah, I look at it as it's not a matter of if, it's when, right? And so if you're a fan of sort of future iterations of what the world could look like, I think we are entering into a phase, a tipping point is on the horizon where you get into your car and it feels very much like the experience you have when you're sitting on your couch, right? You'll be able to watch live sports, you'll be able to select podcast or audio or video that you want to watch, and you'll be able to do that in comfort and at your ease. And I think that is not that far on the horizon. I think that's what's really exciting is that you see kind of what happened from a broadcast cable perspective, and then we've moved into connected TV. You're starting to see sort of the initial signals of what could happen in the mobility space. It's not that far off. And I think when it happens, it's going to happen really quickly, and it's going to be a really exciting white space for marketers to take advantage of.